I don't know, 30-some thousand a few months ago.
And Mr. McGovern, you said we know the number? Is that what you said?
The Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, President Trump's former personal lawyer, said that there are 6 million files. He's choosing to release only 3 million, and he's choosing to heavily redact that 3 million.
So should we hold Pam Bondi in contempt?
What she is turning over documents, and what they said is they turned over documents, every document that they're legally required to turn over.
I don't think she's complying with the subpoena.
That
She's
they're
certainly not complying with the law.
allowed by law to turn over.
Well, all right.
There's still investigations, there's class action lawsuits, there's a lot of legal stuff still taking place with this, but we want the documents. We want everything. We're reviewing the 3 million. I don't think anybody can say with honesty they've read all 3 million of them. We're pouring through them as quick as we can.
I'm worried about the 3 million that haven't been released. And do we know what's in those 3 million pages that haven't been released?
We do not know.
Have we heard have you, because I've been reading the public, I've been reading public statements, but I want to know whether you have heard from Epstein's victims and survivors about the recent release by DOJ? Have you heard of some of the concern of some of the survivors who believe that DOJ is deliberately releasing personal information about them?
See,
that's and while at the same time protecting the men that abuse these women?
You want to answer?
It's deeply concerning. I mean, look, the most recent release, we heard from the Department of Justice that they couldn't follow the law because they were taking so much time to carefully scrutinize the files and ensure they did the appropriate redactions to protect the survivors. And then we hear from survivor after survivor after survivor after survivor who was revealed in the release. So they delayed the release to protect the survivors, so they say, and then they failed to protect the survivors when they released half of the files that the law requires.
And the interesting thing is that the names that really weren't released are the perpetrators, are the people who abused these women. So again, they victimized, again, the survivors, and they're protecting the people, who abused them. I mean, I got to say that, Republicans on the Oversight Committee have moved swiftly to hold the Clintons
And Democrats.
in criminal contempt. Yet several Republican members of the Oversight Committee notably refused to comply with congressional subpoenas from the January 6th committee. Maybe, Chairman Comer, do you think your own members should have been held in contempt and prosecuted?
So I'm glad you asked that question, because there's been a lot of speculation in our Minnesota fraud investigation that there may be a Democrat member from Minnesota that net worth has significantly increased. What we found out, we can't investigate other members. That has to be the ethics committee. So if there was an issue with the January 6th committee subpoenaing members of Congress, which I've been told we're not supposed to do, then they should take it up with the ethics committee, because that's their sole purpose, is to investigate other members.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering whether we should recess for 5 or 10 minutes so that you can figure out what the Clinton development is, so we maybe can save ourselves a whole bunch of time.
Well, may I ask you a question, Mr. McGovern? Is this going to be the standard practice every time we issue a subpoena? Whoever's in charge, Democrats, Republicans, whoever's in control, every time you issue a subpoena, letting them stonewall for 5 months and then prove that you've got the votes on the floor in a bipartisan fashion to hold them in contempt.
No, I mean, I think what the danger here is that the Clintons weren't negotiating in good faith, and you jumped to this
for 5 months.
Just say, we have seen Chairman Comer has repeatedly moved the goalposts here.
Oh, that's bullcrap. That is not true. You've been here 3 weeks. You don't. Hey, that's not true,
Mr. Chairman. At our markup, the chairman.
Reporters can't hear you, so just a moment. You made an accusation, Mr. Walkinshaw.
I'm trying to
that the Republicans moved the goalposts.
That's right.
How can you back that up?
I'll back it up this way. We had a markup a couple weeks ago on these contempt resolutions. The chairman laid out his objections to the Clintons' most recent offer at that time. He didn't like that they hadn't agreed to a transcription. He didn't like that they wanted to limit the amount of committee staff in the room. They had said that he hadn't agreed to limit the discussion to Epstein-related matters. He claimed at the time that was untrue, and he did want to limit the discussion to Epstein-related matters. All of those objections that the chairman laid out at our markup a couple of weeks ago were addressed by the offer that the Clintons made yesterday. We now know the additional objections that the chairman laid out in a recent letter have been addressed by the Clintons and their lawyers. So if we're going to continue to move forward, despite the fact that they have met everything you've asked them to meet, I think we've revealed what's actually happening.
And so the question is, are we interested in getting to the truth and the facts, or are my friends interested in creating a spectacle? Or is this all about, no, this, I would say, we have been on this, Democrats on this committee have tried 9 times to bring, a resolution to the floor to release the Epstein files. Only when public pressure, forced you to cave on it, finally, did we have a vote on it. And now we have a Department of Justice that is half complying.
Mr. McGovern, let me tell you, I agree with you that we should take a recess.
Okay.
So that we can review the recent developments. That's all I was trying to say to you, is I think that we should do that. The rules have been called, votes have been called, and so I think we should go vote and return 10 minutes after the last vote.
And I get to finish my questions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Can we start at the end?
If you won't take another 20 minutes, although I've taken some of your
Can
time.
we start at the beginning of the last? Yeah, the beginning of the last vote. Can we do that?
Beginning of last vote.
Okay, thank you.
If that is giving you all enough time, perhaps they might have something to say at that time. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. I want to thank Chairman Comer and Mr. Walkinshaw and the others who are here. We're now going to recess, and committee's going to recess until after the beginning of the last votes. Committee's in recess.
Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Does any member? Come on. One more. On this vote, the yeas are 402, the nays are 2, two-thirds being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable, the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir, I have the honor to transmit herewith a copy of a letter received from Ms. Christina Atkins, Director of Elections, with the Texas Office of the Secretary of State, indicating that, according to the unofficial results of the special general election held on January 31st, 2026, the Honorable Christian Deshawn Menifee was elected Representative to Congress for the 18th Congressional District of Texas. Signed sincerely, Kevin F. McCumber, Clerk.
For purposes, gentleman from Texas seek recognition.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the gentleman from Texas, the Honorable Christian Menifee, be permitted to take the oath of office today. His certificate of election has not arrived, but there's no contest and no question has been raised with regard to his election, and I appreciate your promptly acting on it.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I'll invite some Texas colleagues to come up and say just a word of introduction about him.
Will Representative-elect Menifee and members of the Texas delegation present themselves in the well? All members will rise, please, and the representative-elect will raise his right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to enter, so help you God? I do. Congratulations. You're now a member of the 119th Congress. Without objection, the gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Saturday was a great day for progress in Texas, from Houston to Fort Worth. For almost a year after the death of our colleague Sylvester Turner, the citizens of...
Suspend. The House is not in order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For almost a year since the tragic death of our late colleague Sylvester Turner, the citizens of the 18th Congressional District of Texas in Houston have been denied representation in this Congress. Now, after Governor Abbott delayed the election call for almost 8 months and then delayed the runoff election another 3 months, these Texans finally have the representation that they deserve. At this moment, we remember the life of Sylvester Turner, who honorably served Houstonians for a decade or more as mayor and state representative, and who took over after the passing of our colleague Sheila Jackson Lee, who we all remember for her tenacity, in a district that was once represented by the legendary Barbara Jordan. This is a district with a long legacy of fighters for justice, and I'm confident that Christian Menefee will carry on that tradition. He was raised in the 18th Congressional District by 2 military parents who taught him about values of hard work, of loyalty, of standing up for what's right. And with the help of a Pell Grant, he was the first member of his family to graduate from college. He graduated from UT San Antonio and then went on to St. Louis to get a law degree from Washington University. He built a successful career as a commercial litigator in Houston and provided extensive pro bono work there, including his working with immigrant families against the Muslim ban. Most recently, he has served as the Harris County Attorney, the youngest person and the first African American to ever hold that office. At this troubling time in our country, please join me in welcoming someone who I know will be a great colleague carrying out the incomplete term of Mr. Turner in this Congress. Christian, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Congressman Doggett, for the incredibly kind introduction, and good evening, colleagues. Colleagues, it's crazy to say. I want to start by saying a special thank you to God, to my wife, Caitlin, who's here with us today. And to my fantastic team. It's been more than 330 days since the people of the 18th Congressional District had representation, had a voice in Congress. When this body took on important votes about whether to cut SNAP benefits, about whether to make it more difficult to access Medicaid, important issues, this district had no voice in Congress. So this one is for the 18th. And this district has a long... I stand here today understanding that there's very, very big shoes to fill. This is a district of fighters, of the legendary Barbara Jordan, who helped overturn a corrupt presidency. Mickey Leland, Craig Washington, Erica Lee Carter, and of course, our 2 great friends, my mentors, dear friends, who we recently lost, the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and the late Sylvester Turner. Many folks in the 18th District are watching, so to my district, the commitment you have from me is that I will work as hard as I can to live up to their legacy. I will treat this job with the seriousness that it deserves. I work full days, and I will fight as hard as I can to advocate for and protect the people of the 18th Congressional District. Thank you.
Under Clause 5 of Rule 20, the Chair announces to the House that in light of the administration of the oath to the gentleman from Texas, the whole number of the House is 432. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Boss, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 3123 as amendment, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title.
H.R. 3123, a bill to amend Title 38 United States Code to make certain improvements to laws relating to the payment of certain benefits administered by the Secretary of Veterans Affairs that are affected by death and for other purposes.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill as amended? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
The committee will come back to order. We are going to suspend the panel from the Committee on Oversight and Government and go to the Committee on Natural Resources. So I now welcome our third panel, Representative Stauber, Representative Ansari from the Committee on Natural Resources. Your full statement will be submitted for the record. We ask you summarize your statement in 5 minutes. Representative Stauber, I welcome your testimony.
Chairwoman Fox, Ranking Member McGovern, thanks for the opportunity to testify today on H.R. 4090, the Critical Mineral Dominance Act. In November, the U.S. Geological Survey published its final 2025 list of critical minerals covering a total of 60 commodities. These critical minerals face risk from disrupted supply chains, and they are vital to U.S. national and economic security, along with our nation's ability to compete and win in the 21st century. The data is clear. Demand for these critical minerals is projected to skyrocket in the coming years, and we must be ready to meet this challenge. According to a recent study from S&P Global, global copper demand alone is projected to increase by 50% by 2040, driven by the growing needs of artificial intelligence, defense, and manufacturing. This surge could cause a shortfall of up to 10 million metric tons of copper without a meaningful supply chain expansion. In other words, we need to mine more, and we need to mine now. Unfortunately, our country has been moved in the opposite direction in recent decades, becoming dangerously reliant on mineral imports. This dependency plays right into the hands of our adversaries, most notably China, who controls approximately 60% of global critical mineral production, 90% of processing, and 75% of manufacturing. We've repeatedly seen the CCP impose mineral export restrictions and use its stranglehold over rare earth minerals as a bargaining chip in trade negotiations, increasing uncertainty across key sectors of our economy. To unleash our vast natural resources, we must take decisive actions to cut through the red tape and end the years of hostility against domestic mining from the Biden administration, which reversed project approvals and restricted development on millions of acres of public lands. Since taking office, President Trump has moved swiftly to set America on a path to mineral dominance, from issuing America First executive orders focused on mineral production to including dozens of new mineral projects in the FAST 41 process. This administration has sent a clear signal that we must support rather than impede our domestic miners, who form the foundation of our national strength. H.R. 4090 builds on President Trump's efforts by codifying aspects of 3 executive orders related to hard rock mining. First, H.R. 4090 requires the Department of the Interior to assess the cost of America's import reliance for each mineral commodity monitored by the USGS. This data will inform further efforts to reduce our reliance on foreign adversaries like the People's Republic of China. Next, the bill directs agencies to identify federal lands suitable for new mineral production, streamlining priority mining projects on federal lands, and accelerate mapping efforts to provide a clearer picture of significant domestic mineral wealth. Finally, H.R. 4090 directs Interior to conduct a nationwide review of laws and regulations, including those from state and local governments, that discourage mineral development. Interior will then provide a report to Congress with their findings, along with policy recommendations to increase domestic mining. During markup, the Natural Resources Committee worked across the aisle to strengthen this bill, adopting 2 minority amendments that require Interior to report to Congress on the barriers to byproduct mineral production on federal lands and examine projects with the potential to produce hard rock minerals from coal ash and coal byproducts. And I am proud that the bill was reported by the Natural Resources Committee with bipartisan support. H.R. 4090 takes a broad and forward-thinking approach to addressing one of the country's most serious challenges. By codifying these policies into law, we will provide our domestic mining sector the policy certainty it needs to invest and grow here in the United States. I urge the committee to adopt an appropriate rule so we can bring this bill to the floor, and I yield.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stauber. Representative Ansari, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Fox and Ranking Member McGovern. I'm here to testify in opposition to H.R. 4090, sponsored by Representative Stauber. At a time of total chaos across our nation, a partial government shutdown, ICE terrorizing communities and murdering Americans in the streets, and countless other crises, our colleagues across the aisle have chosen to spend time on a bill that hands the mining industry the power to gut its own regulations while doing nothing to actually secure American critical mineral supply chains. Now, I do support mining where appropriate, where there are proper environmental and labor safeguards, and I do believe that there are some positive aspects of this bill. But that does not mean that we should be handing over the keys to the industry to pick and choose its own regulations, because I've also seen what happens when mining goes wrong. We've seen water contaminated with toxic pollution, groundwater run dry, and tribal sacred sites and cultural resources disrespected and destroyed. This bill effectively directs the mining industry to tell Interior and the Forest Service which regulations to eliminate, regulations that are essential to protecting communities from toxic waste and polluted drinking water, and that ensure our communities have sufficient opportunity to have their voices heard. And as we've repeatedly raised, our domestic mining industry is dominated currently by foreign companies, some even owned by our adversaries, and nearly all of whom pay no royalty back